So, thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about creating conversational apps, and a lot of this webinar is actually going to look at active deployments that are out there and these tactics that we're talking about, but we're also going to compare conversational web apps to mobile apps and what the difference is, why you would choose one over the other, and some pitfalls of mobile apps and how to avoid them, how to focus and still get value out of those mobile apps, but how to drive so much more with conversational web apps. So to get started today, my name is Levi. I'm your host. I'm a chatbot specialist at TARS, and I've been working with chatbots for over 4 years, building pretty large deployments in the public sector, as well as the private sector, with a key focus on engaging users, getting them to relevant information, and creating customer support automations. So a lot of that is going to come into play in this webinar today, and we're going to look at some of the things that I've built and some of the things that customers of TARS have built and that we've helped them with, and then and use that in the context of these tactics. So who are we? So TARS has been helping state and local governments, government agencies scale services and customer support using chatbots. So basically what I just said, right? It's services and customer support are a major part of public sector side of things. As well, we work with marketers and customer support teams with mid-market enterprise companies, primarily in the private sector as well, doing the same types of things. That opens up a much broader use case and many different industries and verticals that this will all apply to through this whole webinar. So if you're here and you're not in the public sector, don't worry, this has been tailored to fit everyone, because it really does apply to everyone. We're talking about engaging users, converting them, getting better support. Who doesn't want that? So it applies to all. I'm glad everyone's here. I hope everybody finds tons of value in this. Let's talk about the overview. So first off, we're going to dive in. What's the difference between mobile apps versus conversational apps? We're going to spend a little time here, really dive into this, and then we're going to jump straight into those 3 tactics. So with each tactic, we're going to go over a couple key points, look at some live deployments that are using these tactics, and then, of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at any time. If it's relevant to where we're at in the webinar at that moment, I will try and answer them live as long as I see them. And if not, we will have a 10 to 20 minute session at the end where you can ask all the questions you want. I really highly suggest you do this. It's great for you, also for me, to be able to share more information that's not just covered in these slides and what we talk about. So ask all the questions you want. And of course, number 4, some of the folks that are just joining us haven't heard about this, but there is a bonus tactic. If you have not signed up on our website, do so. You get a recording of this webinar afterwards, and you'll get a bonus tactic, which is just a short 3-minute video covering another tactic, which I think you'll find quite relevant, and it'll be easy to share around too. So I'll give you the link at the end so you can sign up if you haven't already. So let's jump into it. The reality of mobile apps. Look, there's going to be some hard realities in this, and I know maybe some folks will be like, but I spent all this time and money on a mobile app, but it just ain't working. So here's the fact of the matter. All of them, whether you're Google or not, right? All mobile apps are competing for space and attention on users' phones. What that means is you are competing against Facebook and Google and all of those other companies out there that are delivering, cutting edge entertainment and work tools and all kinds of things that fill up a user's phone. That space is limited. The notifications are overwhelming. I have actually a screenshot here in a minute of my own phone, and the notifications are out of this world. I ignore them because I can't handle them all. And the fact of the matter is, the question you have to be asking is, can I compete with them? If you can compete with them, the answer could be yes, right? In certain situations. But the key to this is you have to deliver daily value. So if we're a public sector organization, and that's kind of the theme of this webinar, it's pretty hard to deliver daily value for most of the services that you provide to citizens. They're more kind of like a once in a years, sometimes once a year, like an annual thing. Rarely is it a daily thing. But a great example of that is mobile public transport, right? Public transit. So the metro, the bus lines, things like that, where somebody will daily get onto that bus line or to that subway to make a commute. Now that's a daily occurrence for them. So a mobile app serving that makes a lot of sense. That's a very specific use case. There's not many that actually fit this. You also provide a great experience. So if you don't have daily value, but you provide a great experience, you can potentially compete. But honestly, it's still very hard. The value driver is the biggest factor in mobile apps being successful. Or the final one is you control your audience's attention. So this is pretty key. It works really well in the public sector, right? Because they provide services that nobody else does. There's really no competition. You do control the audience's attention at key points. But again, it's fleeting, right? They may download a mobile app, but will they continue using it? And if they don't, then the mobile app is essentially worthless to them and does not provide the value you're trying to get out of it. So a lot of things to think about when talking about deploying a mobile app. But the truth of the matter is the answer is often no. It doesn't deliver relevant value, and it actually creates a barrier to the user when they need to do something, right? So if there's this app they have to download, but they want to do something right now, now we have additional steps. I don't know if it's happened to anybody else, but it's happened to me. My phone is literally full. I can't add any more apps to my phone, and I have to delete apps. Is somebody going to delete their apps for a government mobile app? Unlikely. It's pretty unlikely, right? Unless it delivers tons of value daily to them. So these are barriers that are going to stop people from even considering the download in the first place. This is pretty important, this moment of need, right? When somebody really wants something at that time, it's really critical to engage them right then and there. We're actually going to talk about this when we dive into some tactics, but let's just look at the difference, right? So conversational apps are ubiquitous. What I mean by that is they're accessible on any device. This isn't just a mobile app thing. They work great on mobile. They excel on mobile. But if you have a desktop, guess what? You can still provide that application to folks, and in a way that they will completely understand. They will understand the UI, the user interface. They will know the user experience because it's the most used interface on the planet. Text messaging, we all get it. We all use it. 6 billion active monthly users on all the top messaging apps. So it's a ton of people. Versus mobile apps, right? Only on a mobile device or a tablet. It's very restrictive. Most people, when they're seeking services, are actually on your website. They're actually at the point of information delivery, service delivery, and mobile apps create now another channel that they have to go through and download, and it's only on certain devices. So it causes a lot of, it excludes a lot of users, but also causes a lot of friction for them as well. And that's that download required and competing for space. So this is my phone. It's got notifications everywhere. And a lot of this is just junk. Like my email, I have multiple emails connected. There's so much spam in them. I gave up trying to control it a long time ago. But I have all these different entertainment apps, work apps, um, design apps, all of these things that I use, and some basic things, right? Like my clock, my calendar, things that I use on a daily that are competing for my attention every single day. Facebook is in the business of owning your attention, and that's what they do. Down here, I actually have a public sector mobile app that I downloaded just for this screenshot. And when I click, this is what it is. It's the MVD or the DMV practice driver test. So you can take some test quizzes to see if you're ready to get your driver's license as a 16-year-old, for example. And over here, I have the conversational app that actually helps people sign to actually renew their license or get a new license or something of that nature. And it does other things like calculate their fees, right? This is what we're talking about when we're talking about conversational apps. There's many different ways to use them, much different than a mobile app, which kind of has a specific it's almost like a website wrapped into an app, right? You're doing a few things with that app. Conversational apps can do myriads of business processes through conversation, and they can be triggered when it's relevant to the user. That's key. So let's jump into these tactics. I got 3 for you today. If you register on the website again, there'll be a bonus one for you. But these are going to be incredibly relevant whether you're any sector you're in. They're designed this way, right? So first and foremost, the first tactic is engagement. I think we all want more engagement from our users. Whether they're citizens or paying customers, we want them to engage. And here we're going to be talking about calculators and quizzes as a tactic for driving engagement. So let's first discuss the problem with generating engagement. First and foremost, those experiences, those good experiences are limited by device, right? So most websites are actually more enjoyable on a desktop. They may be mobilely optimized, but that doesn't mean it's actually a good experience on mobile. It shrinks the website down to fit on the mobile. I don't feel like scrolling for 5 years to get to information, though. It's a bad experience. It's hard to interact with certain things. It's limited. Conversely, right, a mobile app is absolutely limited to mobile, so we don't have even a choice there. It doesn't scale up. Sites are static. This is key here, right? Static information, minimal interaction points. And what I mean by that is even CTAs, right? Your call to action, that button to get the user to do something is just a one interaction. They click it and it takes them to a new page. And maybe they fill out a form, but nobody likes filling out forms. Nobody likes doing those things. So they're minimal interactions, driving to basically more static, more reading and scrolling, no real action by the user. And then designing good user experience and user interface is time intensive. I know this from personal experience, having worked in government and watched, just even web apps, right? We're not talking mobile apps. We're just talking about web applications, portals, things of that nature, which is similar to conversational apps, but a little bit different. And we can get into that a little bit more. But the point being, so much time was spent on actually designing the interface, mostly the interface, not the experience, but so much time spent on designing the interface that the experience suffered anyways. And it was many months, sometimes years to get an app out that had a critical service. That is, it's just not really feasible, right? And I think we've all learned that rapid deployment technology is key to scaling in crisis or just providing good services to people. It doesn't have to be a crisis. We should be doing this anyways. So we need to look for a way to reduce time to that service being produced specifically, right? Also, so now let's jump into conversational apps, and I'll call them chatbots. It's, it's pretty much, for me, it's going to be, uh, they mean the same thing. They don't necessarily mean the same thing in the broad spectrum of things, but as what we're talking about today, they mean the same thing. So creating micro engagements with chatbots, what does that mean? Well, that means when somebody's on your website, when somebody's interacting with you digitally, when they are interested in doing something, whether that's finding the fee that they have to pay, whether that's understanding if they qualify for a service in the first place, that is the key to micro engagements. And what micro engagements are is essentially popping up at the moment of need and providing that application or that service, right? So we're actually going to look at a live deployment of a fee calculator right now, and I'll explain why this thing is so effective. I mean, it is literally the key engagement point of an entire website, and basically the whole digital services. People are drawn to this fee calculator, and it continues them into other interactions, which is key for this particular public sector organization, in terms of revenue, because they actually need to generate revenue through a special service, but also it reduces support calls. It keeps people actually enjoying their experience and being successful with their experience. And also, I have a little quiz that I put together years ago as well that kind of covers the same thing. So let's jump in and look really quick at one of these live deployments, which is the Real ID website that uses the fee calculator to not only drive engagement, but this is tactic two, try to convert people, right? Try to push to a conversion, which is really key. Public sector doesn't think about it that much. They should be thinking about it every single day, but the private sector, obviously, it's all about conversion, right? Engagement leads to conversion. We are trying to convert people and have a good experience while doing it. So I'm going to jump out of this really quick. We'll jump over to this website, and what we're going to do is I'm going to scroll down through this website, and I'm going to get to the cost portion, right? So it says Real ID costs, calculate fees. If I click on one of these buttons, because I want to know what it's going to cost me, and I click on this button, what happens is on-page deployment of a conversational app. Really key, and not just from a generic starting point. This actually starts from the fee calculator. Now, this is something that's built into a larger system. So we can actually target what we're engaging the user with based on their interactions on a website. This is really key. You can actually use this in mobile apps too, but I think its real value lies in the place where people are actually interacting with the sites, which is the website, right? You're not competing for attention in that moment. You're not competing for space. You're not asking them to download anything. It's literally just produced in front of them, and they can start moving. So I'm going to just drive through this really quick, show how easy it is. We had some options of different ways to calculate fees. I'm going to change my Montana license to a Real ID. That's why somebody's on this website in the first place, more than likely. And there's some conditions, right? So we can do some date pickers. I can just move forward quickly with today's date. It asks me when my license expires. I'm just going to pick a random day, and then it calculates it. So this is really critical here. Super easy experience. You were all here with me. It was fast, easy. It's very clear what my cost is going to be. It breaks down the fees, and all of this happened really fast. And what's interesting about that whole experience is all of these were actual, when it asked when my license expired, that's a condition that we're checking against something that is normally really confusing to people. You have to be within 6 months of your license expiring, or you have to replace your license and pay a higher fee. When you try and explain that to somebody through static text, it is so hard for them to get it. They just don't understand. So instead of saying that, we just simply ask, when is it expiring? and then we make the calculation. There's of course links to, there's information all over the website itself that explains all of this. So there's easy ways to find that information if users want it, but they really don't. Most people do not want to see that information. They just want an answer. They want clean, simple, easy to use services. So here's a great example. This thing drives tons of engagement, has over a 5.5-star rating. Folks love it. And the key to it, which we're going to get into right here, actually, no, I want to show you one more. So this is a quiz. This is the ID finder, and this is also about real ID, right? Because it's a choice in Montana specifically, do you need a real ID? Do you need a passport? Do you need a passport card? This experience is basically a quiz, right? It's asking questions. I'm responding based on my personal, how I fly, what I do. You know, okay, I frequently fly domestically. I occasionally fly internationally. And then it asks me, am I comfortable carrying a passport when I fly domestically? Or would I only prefer to use it on international flights? So as you can see, the conversational app is adjusting to my selections to give different outcomes and custom messaging. Very cool, right? Because if I said I never fly internationally, it would not ask me if I'm comfortable flying or carrying a passport to fly domestically or only use it on international flights. So this then tells me a passport and a real ID sound like the best choice for you, right? It can be more than one answer because I don't want to carry my passport domestically, so I should get a real ID so I don't have to. So this is a great example of a simple quiz that's engaging, super fast, and it's actually pushing towards those conversion. Just like the fee calculator, this quiz is pushing towards a conversion, which is to get a real ID, which is what the government, in this case, this public sector organization, really wants you to do. And so they're trying to influence that. So we'll jump back right in here. Let's go back into it. I hope you found that valuable. These are actually, the quizzes are incredibly easy to set up. The fee calculator was a little more complicated because there's a lot of conditions, a lot of different fees and scenarios, but it runs great. It's a fantastic application. The quiz, setting up quizzes like that, it can be done literally in less than an hour. In 30 minutes, you can have a really nice quiz up. You can push it through email campaigns. You can push it on socials. You can have it on your website. It literally can touch all these digital interaction points, right? And drive those engagement points, but also qualify users. This is key in a lot of government services. There's a lot of exemptions and conditions that apply, and quizzes can actually provide a very easy, user-friendly experience that lets people know if they even qualify for the service in the first place. And if they don't, they're much less likely to be angry than filling out a form or trying to do a service and then finding out that they didn't qualify and should have read the fine print. People don't enjoy that. So let's jump into tactic number 2, conversion, driving relevant interactions. We saw a part of this, right? We were talking about this with interacting on the website and that app popping up right there on page and completing the service for the user. That's key to conversions. And I like to say websites are very much broken in this capacity because usually when we click on something like learn more, it takes us to another page. That right there is literally a break in the experience. We leave one spot, break, and go to another. That is not good. People don't enjoy that. We put up with it because we've been so used to it because the internet's acted this way for decades. But it doesn't mean it actually is the best way of doing business. So the reason why it's hard to get conversions is because of these minimal interaction points, the bad digital experience, that break from one page to the next. And this is key on public sector, particularly, is they're pushing users to support channels. Call our call center, big, number right up front. Call our call center, pushing folks to that support channel, which I guess is okay if you have unlimited amounts of money, unlimited amounts of personnel, and you can somehow keep up with that demand. I have not really met any organization that can say answer any call in under a minute. That doesn't exist. So once you've passed, say, the 5-minute mark, it's a bad experience. Nobody likes waiting on the phone. So do not push users to your call center. Is not the right way to handle conversions. And most of those calls don't even turn into conversions either. So it's not the best way, especially in the public sector, to handle trying to help people convert to a service. Now, where conversational apps excel here is actually by flipping that script and providing a continuous engagement. As you saw with that first couple demos, I was constantly engaging to move the conversation forward. It's almost like putting credit in a bank, right? The more, or money in a bank, the more credit, the more money you put in, the bigger the balance gets. So at the end, when you go to cash it out, the user feels like they're getting tons of value through it. That is key to, and why conversational apps excel, especially over, well, really, in my opinion, over all interfaces, even the mobile apps. Mobile apps do have a lot more interaction points, for sure. But again, you have to be daily relevant to the user to even get them on there in the first place. But conversational apps are all about engagement, all about the user driving the experience. So it's very key to them. And it keeps their attention, right? If you're constantly having to click and interact with something, you're going to stay there. You're going to complete that service. So your conversion rates go up. It's basic math, really, and logic. It also, those relevant experiences. So when somebody wants to do something, they want to do it right then and there. This is very true with today's society. We cannot ignore this. They want it right then and there. Do not take them somewhere else. Provide it on page, and you will increase conversions guaranteed. And then personalizing the interaction. This is something that, again, digital channels suffer, especially websites. It's not a personal experience. It is literally everything, all the information, all the services smashed into one place, and then you have to figure out your way through it to that information. There's no calling you by name. There's no detecting your device and understanding what you would need in that moment. None of that exists. But with conversational apps, you absolutely can address the user by name. You can absolutely look up all of their information and have a relevant, personalized interaction with them. You can absolutely detect where they're at, their device, numerous things to create a more personal experience to the user. So using conversational apps, you can directly convert or redirect users to those service channels. So what I mean by this, and we'll go look at another example, is a couple things. So I have two different tabs over here. This one is Tyler, Texas. They're a city that we work with. You can see our chatbot down here in the corner. Usually it has a call out message, but I've been here, so the call out message has disappeared because I've interacted with the chatbot. You can already see this website is a little overwhelming and kind of hard to understand what you want to do. So what we have actually did is we built a chatbot that has natural language processing that can help citizens get to the services they need. So instead of doing it in-app, the chatbot is actually helping direct to the services that already exist. So this means it was really fast to deploy. It tapped right into the service channels, the web applications, the portals that already existed, and move the user there based on what they're looking for. So I want to pay my water bill. Will take me to the portal for paying my water bill, right? So it's an easy step It does ask me to confirm that because we do need to make sure that the NLP was accurate, and so we can grow it, make it smarter. But then it redirects me. So automatically I go, again, this is a break in experience. I'd much rather pay that water bill right through the chatbot, but this is an easy way to push people to those services. So now we're in another web application where I can pay for my water. Another interesting part of this, though, is we recently worked with them because of that severe weather in Texas to help folks get to correct information. So I just wanted to show this really quick. I have a water emergency. We're literally able to add this in less than, I think it was less than an hour, maybe 2 hours, that we had a way to direct folks that were having water emergencies and cold weather, severe cold weather problems to right where Tyler, Texas wanted them to be, which was actually their news bulletin, right? Where they have all the updates with water and what to do and all of that. So just something cool I wanted to show. Now, next, let's jump over to, again, the DMV and look at a way that the device, the conversational app can actually personalize the experience. So one, and this is pretty straightforward and awesome, is we have actually embedded a Google map with all the locations where you can not only get a driver's license, but also specifically a real ID license, because they're not offered in all. And when you click on any of these, I'm not going to get into it, but it shows the business hours, the address, can get directions to it and all of that. And it steps these users right through all the things they need to know before coming and taking their test. So I'm going to pass this just for the sake of brevity. Then again, there's a redirect moment where we can redirect them to the appointment scheduler app so they can do their appointment through an existing app. I'll say I'll call, thanks, gives the call support number where I can call and schedule my appointment. But of course, right, there's restrictions, business hours, not available all the time. I can download the driving manual, very relevant to me as a user right now because I need to take the driving test. So I need the manual. I could just download it with the click of a button. Again, gonna pass. And then it asks if I'd like to calculate my license fees. I'm gonna say no. And finally, I guess I missed it. I must have went down the wrong path, but another thing that this does is when you're taking the driving test on the machine, it offers an app to download, which you saw on my screen before, that MVD test app, right? So you can practice for a driver's test. Before I included that in this conversational app, there was like 10 downloads of that app. Nobody ever saw it. Nobody downloaded it. When I included it into the flow of the chatbot where it detected the device, oh, that's why I did it. Duh. I'm on a desktop, so I wouldn't be downloading a mobile app on my desktop. If I were on my phone, which I could have done by changing this to being on a phone, it would have detected that I was on an iPhone and said, would you like to download the practice app through the Apple Store, or the Apple App Store, which then drives users directly to that application, because mobile applications may work for you in certain things, right? Are you delivering that daily value? In this case, no, but it did drive the signups to that app by over 900%. So if that isn't an awesome number to rally around, so it went from like 10 downloads to a 900% increase, and it continued to push people to that app in large numbers. So there's a great example of conversions by redirect. Similarly, how I would actually do this if I had a say in it is I would take somebody to a conversational app and do the quiz through the chatbot, because they're really good at quizzes. And we did see an example up here that would help convert folks. So that's that. All right, now we're on to tactic 3. This is support. So we have our engagement, we have our conversion, and then what comes last, our support, right? So even if we convert somebody, we may need support, but if there's any hiccup in the process before that, support is where users are going to go. So tactic 3 is support, automate new channels. What that means is it doesn't just have to be your call center. You have many other options out there to interact with folks, to provide support. And the key, if you've seen my other webinars, is scale. Call centers cannot scale. I cannot say this enough. Call centers are incapable of scaling, especially in crisis, but even at peak hours. They cannot scale to meet the demand. Super true in public sector. Private sector, you can spend a lot of money and get more of that scale, but it's a lot of money and you're still probably looking at some wait time. So unless you're a major corporation that's willing to drop that kind of dough on it, it's not feasible. It's not feasible to have a scalable call center. So why are they getting the traffic in the first place? Well, we just talked about the tactics to increase, but these are the reasons why your support channels are getting overwhelmed. The users are not engaged. They're going to the support channel for engagement because they have no other means of engagement. They cannot convert easily. They scroll your website for days looking for a way to just complete the service, but they can't figure it out. So they call your support channel to get the answer and try and do it on the phone or figure out how to move forward, right? They're just super frustrated. And there are limited ways to answer direct customer questions. This is pretty straightforward, right? Website, you can search it. It just gives you a bunch of static text. It's still hard to find your answer, or support articles, still hard to find the answer. People don't want to read 20 pages on how to get your license. They are not going to do it. Or any number of public sector services. They don't want to read about it. They want a direct answer to their question, right? If their question lies somewhere in the middle of that, that's a lot of reading to get to the answer of their question. And FAQs, let's be honest, most people don't even look at them, and they're very limited. They're only covering 5 or 10 questions, and there's many more out there. So what conversational apps do is they flip the information hierarchy and they drive users to answers. So instead of driving them to a bunch of information, they drive them to relevant, specific information that they're looking for. Now that creates a much better experience. They're engaged through the process. And this is key, right? It reduces support calls. Nobody's calling your call center if they found the specific answer they're looking for. They have no more reason to call the call center, which drives that call center cost down. And we're actually going to go look at Indiana InBiz for our demo. They have driven their call center support costs down $200,000 in the first year just by implementing one chatbot that directs users to information. Answer questions through NLP. So we saw that with Tyler, right? Where you can, it's much different than a search. It is kind of like search, but you can say things in your own words, type them out in your own words, and then the NLP will understand the intent of what you're trying to do and then direct you to the answer. And sometimes it's not just a few lines of text. It can actually be a complex process that the chatbot can then step them through to a successful completion. So many of these elements actually start intertwining with each other. Engaging, if somebody has a support question, they type it in, it has an engaging experience that helps them convert to a service if it's applicable, or it just answers their question really simply. Either way, much better experience. It's helping users tremendously. And I didn't even talk about Missouri Secretary of State, which is using NLP too. They've had over 100,000 automated chat interactions, and they've left us a review that said it was critical in reducing their support the demand on their call center and their support infrastructure, which was absolutely spiked to the max. They launched a new business portal. They could not keep up with the amount of people calling in and having questions and being frustrated with the new portal that they were not, they're used to the old one, and it just caused a ton of issues. Chatbot stepped in, hasn't even been running for 6 months. Over 100,000 conversations automated, and dropped that call center strain significantly. So they were able to breathe and operate like normal again. So that's super key. But there's obviously times where a human needs to take over. So conversational apps are great at actually automating that intake process. A lot of time is actually wasted by support folks by having to ask name, email, what's your issue, what's going on. All that basic information can actually be collected through a conversational app, shipped to the customer support agent so that they can just help the user solve their problem right then and there. We can eliminate a lot of that time that the call centers and support channels waste, essentially, by re-engaging with the user. The user already knows, they can tell the chatbot, and it can be delivered to that support. So we're going to look at Indiana InBiz really quick. I'm not really going to jump into the chatbot. We actually even talked about it, but I'll just show really quick. They have it here on the left side of their website in particular, and this one just essentially helps anybody that's doing any type of business service. They need information about how to start an LLC, any of that stuff. It directs them through, very guided, no NLP, totally guided experience. And like I said, it first year drove down $200,000 out of their call center bill, because they outsourced their call center. So that was realized value to them by reducing the amount of money they paid per call, by literally reducing them. And yeah, so here's the chatbot. Like I said, I'm not going to actually drive through it, but a good thing to note is color branding, right? It's branded to their colors. They have a fun avatar that is inviting and engaging to folks. They also were able to rapidly deploy information about COVID, where most folks weren't able to quickly adapt to that, and had pop-ups and stuff like this. Within a week, I'm pretty sure it was within a week, they had this resource here that would direct them to the correct place to go, which isn't InBiz. They don't have resources for COVID, right? They're not the place that you would go in government for that information. So the chatbot helped folks get there in a relevant manner. So for business resources, which organization was helping that, it sends them there. So very key, and it's a really nice touch point of conversational apps. Rapid deployment, really easy to set up, really easy to build workflows and deploy instantly to your users. And that's what they did. So that is pretty much it. Went a little longer than I wanted to, but we still got 15 minutes for questions. We're here to the top of the hour. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them. Happy to answer anything. Show more if you'd like to see it. And now it's a waiting game. And while we wait, I do have these slides hidden. Oh, who do you use for NLP? Good question. All right. So the question is, who do you use for NLP? And the answer is, you can actually use any NLP engine, which is really nice touch, right? And the reason being is because our particular platform can integrate with any application that has an API. So all of those NLP engines out there, they have APIs, how they work. We particularly gravitate towards Google Dialogflow because it's pretty easy to set up. It's pretty easy to set up those training sets, but there are others out there, and it's all driven through it's all driven through APIs. So you can integrate with any NLP that you would like. with our platform, as well as any other application that has an API. So not just NLP, but literally anything out there that has an API, you can trigger it at any point in the workflow. And actually, for example, the fee calculator has an API call that happens that pulls up the fee at the end. So that's actually done through an API call based on the user's conditions. It returns the values, and it happens very seamlessly on the user's end. But yeah, so, and this includes government applications, right? It doesn't matter who they are. If they have an API, you can trigger it through our application. Any traffic explicit applications rather than whole city or state government? Yeah, actually, we have built 311 chatbots, for example. So a lot of, I've ran into this more than once, cities that, and actually Tyler, Texas uses a mobile app for reporting issues with the city. And the truth is, if we're talking about mobile apps again, the truth is most citizens aren't downloading that. There is a subset of folks that are very conscious of their city and issues with it. But most folks, right, they're only going to want to report an issue like a traffic issue, like, oh, there's a tree down in the middle of the road, when it's very relevant to them because there's literally a tree blocking them and they can't get past. They don't want to download a mobile app. They want to just report it. So we have built like a 311 type chatbot that allows people to quickly report issues, send it off to the city. So you can build, and that's much of what we're talking about. So there's, if it somehow impacts a person, you can build and quickly, right? So you're not doing these month-long deployment processes. You can quickly build a workflow that solves that issue and deploy it on the web. And as you did see, I'm sure I didn't really explain it, but as you may have seen, we have this widget, but we also have conversational landing pages, as we call it. So this has a unique link that you can send folks to. This can also be embedded on your, it can also use your domain, but each one comes with its own link that can be deployed pretty much instantly. And you can land folks on these services, microservices essentially, through any of your channels. So you don't have a long development process. You can, like this one, I literally built in less than an hour. I built this quiz in less than an hour, pushed it out through social, got people interacting with it, paying attention to Real ID. That's it. Just a minor little project, and it worked and had lots of interactions. Does that answer your question, Ray? I wasn't quite. Do you use AI in TARS? Yeah, I guess you could say AI through the NLP. Right now, we are implementing a kind of more of an advanced analytics side, which I guess you might be able to say is a bit AI through droppage funnels where people are dropping off, things like that. Some more dynamic analytics and data searches and visualizations. But most of the time, how TARS works is you're literally using a drag and drop work or flow chart builder to build how people are moving through the chatbot, how they're branching out. And this literally reflects your business process, right? How you are conducting business is how folks interact with the chatbot. So it really translates quickly to what you are doing. The most time you're going to spend is actually on how you're messaging the users, which doesn't even take that much time either. Also, there are some other webinars out here on these same topics. One of my one of the folks from TARS probably drop a link into the chat to get to the other webinars. Additionally, I did want to bring up that bonus tactic, so I have it hidden here on the slides, but let's open it up here really quick. So, bonus tactic, 3-minute video we'll send to you. Make sure to register on the actual webinar page. Yep, there it is. There's the resources to all the webinars. Make sure to register for this webinar if you haven't already. If you have, great, you're going to get this recording. You're going to get that bonus tactic. If not, jump over here. You can navigate to it quickly through the link that Abalash just shared and check out our upcoming webinars, of course. And thank you so much for joining. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. Thanks for all the questions, Ray. I really do appreciate it. And I'm glad that you learned a lot on this. That's great. Happy to share. I enjoy delivering information. So looks like that's it for our questions. Again, thank you everyone for joining me. This has been another TARS webinar, and this is Levi, your conversational consultant, and I hope to see you next time.